I'm Mike Harris, and What in the Law podcast is back. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about traffic infractions. Traffic infractions are the lower level of traffic tickets. Basically, an infraction in Colorado means you can get a fine, you can get points on your license, but you cannot go to jail and can't normally even get probation. So, why would you even bother with a lawyer in these types of cases? Well, there's a couple reasons. One of the reasons you would not get a lawyer is the fine on the case. Because frankly, whatever fine is associated with one of these very, relatively speaking, lower level cases is going to be less than any fee you're going to pay a lawyer. The reason you want to look for a lawyer is the risk of insurance hikes or losing your driver's license. In Colorado, we have a system of points where depending on what you're convicted of, you get a certain amount of points, and insurance companies will see those and raise your rates. Secondly, if you get too many points, you're going to looking at a driver's license suspension. And you might not be able to legally drive for a period of time, or you may have to be able to drive with some restrictions on your license. And those can be very expensive. So where someone like me often comes in is, number one, looking over the case to see, can you even fight it? There are cases of lower level cases where the cops make mistakes. This is more common in cases where the police officer is not a direct witness. For example, a traffic accident which involves a careless driving and the police arrive after the scene. Now, that doesn't mean there are not cases where the police maybe fabricate or exaggerate, but frankly, on these lower level things, that is relatively rare, and it's going to be pretty hard to convince a judge or a magistrate that that is what occurred. What normally happens in these types of cases is we try to negotiate. We try to get a lower level of points. And sometimes that means some sort of trade-off of sort of driving classes. In more severe types of infractions, maybe there would be community service. But normally it's a matter of fixing license problems and negotiating something based on whatever your record or hopefully lack of record is, and dealing with either a prosecutor or a police officer. Now that's another reason where lawyers can sometimes help. Depending on where you get the ticket, the procedures can be vastly different. It's not just different from county to county. If you are in a municipal court, you're going to have a different set of procedures than if you are in front of what's called a county court. And frankly, from different town to different town, the various city courts may have different rules and different procedures. For example, there's some towns that have night court. Some towns do everything in the day as a normal court schedule would be. And frankly, depending on who your judge is, you could have some differences of how cases are treated. So while these are not the most severe cases where you're worried about going to jail, they can have a big impact and can be very difficult and very stressful to work on, especially if it's something you're not used to doing. So people like me who handle these cases have some experience in not only knowing what the procedures, looking at the case to see whether it's something you can legitimately fight or whether it's something you just need to get the best deal you can, but also when talking to the prosecutors or the police involved in the case. So if you have something like this, take it seriously, because just sending in the ticket, just walking into court and paying the fine might seem easy, but you could have other consequences later, and you could regret doing that. And it doesn't hurt to sit down and talk with a lawyer before you make your decision. So that's a little bit about traffic infractions. And if you have other questions or have a case, give me a call. 719-635-2005 is my number. And see you next time on What in the Law podcast.